Kylian Mbappe's name once stood at the peak of world football as a symbol of a new generation. Fast, sharp, and almost flawless. He was not just a player, but a representation of the future. Every move he made was watched, every goal celebrated, and every decision became a global headline. But in the ruthless digital era, reputation is not built solely on performance, but also on perception. And perception can change, in a matter of days. Recently, social media has been flooded with a narrative that sounds exaggerated, even absurd. Mbappé being labelled a dictator. A label that didn't come from one major incident, but from small fragments that were collected, amplified, and twisted into a complete story. From minor conflicts, locker room rumors, to convincing AI-generated memes, all blended into one. The question is no longer whether it is true or false, but how is it possible that a player once adored is now slowly being pushed into becoming a villain by his own public? And to understand how this narrative was formed, we need to break it down piece by piece. This is why Mbappé has been labelled a dictator. A small conflict that triggered a big reaction. It didn't start in the locker room or on the pitch, but from something that seemed trivial, social media content. At the time, Kylian Mbappé became the subject of a joke by an influencer. For some, it was just ordinary humour, part of internet culture that often crosses the line. But for Mbappé, it was serious enough to be addressed legally. From a professional standpoint, this step is not unusual. World-class athletes live under immense image pressure. One negative narrative can affect sponsors, branding, and even long-term careers. In that context, firmly protecting one's reputation makes sense. Many public figures do the same, though it's not always exposed. The problem is, the internet does not operate on professional logic, it runs on emotion. When the public sees a superstar reacting strongly to criticism or mockery, the interpretation shifts instantly. He is no longer seen as someone defending himself, but as someone untouchable. This is where the label begins to form, not from complete facts, but from simplified fragments of reactions. And often, that's enough to create a stigma. The legacy of perception from PSG. Long before the dictator narrative went viral, its seeds had already been planted during Mbappe's time at Paris Saint-Germain. At the club, Mbappé was not just a star player, he was the centre of the project, the main face, and the symbol of the team's future. His massive contract, combined with his privileged position within the squad, made him appear to have far greater influence than other players. This situation was reinforced by PSG's internal instability. The presence of multiple superstars created a complex dynamic, both on and off the pitch. When results didn't meet expectations, the public began looking for a figure seen as the centre of control. And Mbappé, with all the attention surrounding him, naturally became the primary candidate. Although there was no concrete evidence that he truly controlled club decisions, the perception had already taken root. In modern football, perception is often stronger than facts. And once a label sticks, it doesn't easily disappear, even when the player moves to a new club. New drama at Real Madrid. When Kylian Mbappé finally joined Real Madrid, many expected him to start a new chapter. But the opposite happened. The old narrative followed him and even grew bigger. High expectations turned every small detail into scrutiny, and every imperfection was magnified. Amid an adaptation process that wasn't always smooth, various rumours began to surface. Some spoke of tension in the locker room, others linked him to internal team dynamics, even dragging in the coach's name like Xabi Alonso. There was no strong official confirmation, but that didn't stop the spread of these stories. In today's media ecosystem, rumours don't need to be proven to go viral, they just need to be interesting enough. And when a narrative aligns with previously formed perceptions, the public is more likely to believe it. This is where the story of Mbappé as an overly dominant figure started to regain strength, now in a much larger context. Drop in performance. Target found. Nothing shifts public opinion faster than results on the pitch. When team performance falls short of expectations, pressure rises instantly, and the spotlight looks for a target. In situations like this, the biggest name is almost always the first to be blamed. And in Real Madrid's squad, that figure is clearly Kylian Mbappé. Every missed chance, Every decision on the field, even his body language, becomes endless material for analysis. The public no longer sees the game as a whole, but through fragments of moments that reinforce existing narratives. This is where a classic football pattern repeats itself, from hero to scapegoat. This phenomenon is not new. Cristiano Ronaldo has been in the same position, as has Lionel Messi during difficult periods at PSG. Superstars always live between two extremes: praise to the sky when successful, then quickly brought down when results turn against them. PSG explodes after Mbappé's departure. The dictator narrative surrounding Mbappé is not only built on rumors or perception, but also reinforced by one undeniable fact. Paris Saint-Germain's performance improved significantly after his departure. Instead of collapsing, PSG became more solid, more collective, and far more dominant across competitions. They no longer appeared dependent on a single figure, but functioned as a cohesive system. PSG achieved their first ever treble in the 2024/2025 season under Luis Enrique, winning Ligue 1, Coupe de France, and the UEFA Champions League. The peak came when they lifted the Champions League trophy, a title long associated with Mbappé's ambitions. Ironically, many believed he moved to Real Madrid to win that trophy, yet the opposite happened. PSG achieved it right after he left, while Madrid entered a difficult period. This comparison became perfect fuel for public opinion. Without a single focal point, PSG looked more balanced, their attack more varied, transitions quicker, and defense more disciplined. From here, a stronger question emerged. Was there previously too much dominance? And unintentionally, PSG's success reinforced the dictator label attached to Mbappé. When all these pieces are put together, it becomes clear that the dictator label attached to Kylian Mbappé is not the result of a single absolute truth, but an accumulation of perceptions reinforced over time. From exaggerated minor conflicts, the shadow of past influence, unproven rumors, to comparisons of team performance before and after his departure, all connect into a narrative that feels logical to the public. However, behind all of this, one thing is often forgotten. Football is not about one player. It is a collective game where many factors determine the outcome: tactics, chemistry, management, and momentum. But in the digital era, that complexity is often simplified into a single, digestible story. And in this story, Mbappé happens to be the easiest figure to place at the center. In the end, is he truly an overly dominant figure, or simply a victim of public expectations and media framing? The answer may not be as simple as it seems, because in the modern world, sometimes the most powerful thing is not the truth, but the story that gets repeated the most. So what do you think? Is Kylian Mbappé really too dominant within his team? Or is this all just the result of media and public framing? Share your opinion in the comments, because in football, opinions can sometimes be hotter than facts.